Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Ngayong hapon na ito, tayo ay magkakaroon ng isang maikling webinar tungkol sa malusog na isipan at pangangatawan para sa ligtas na mamamayan sa panahon ng new normal. Hindi biro ang ating nararanasan sa panahong ito dahil sa dami ng pagbabago na ating nararanasan. Tunghayan niyo po ang aming webinar ngayong hapon na to. Tayo po ay makinig, manood. Maaari niyo pong i-share ang live na ito sa inyong Facebook page or Facebook profile. Mag-host din po tayo ng watch party sa iba't ibang groups at makinig po tayo. Para simulan ang webinar na ito, magkaroon po tayo ng isang panalangin na sisimulan po ni Sir Tom Terry Merales.
Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat. Para po sa ating paninimula, maglaan po tayo ng isang panalangin. Okay po. Sa oras pong ito, damin po natin ang presensya ng Panginoong Diyos. Panginoong Diyos na makapangyarihan sa lahat, pinupuri at tinataas po namin ang inyong kabanal-banalang pangalan sa oras na ito. Panginoon, salamat po sa magandang panahon na patuloy niyo pong pinagkakalob sa amin. Lord, salamat po Ama, at sa kabila ng pandemya ang aming nararanasan ay pinapadama niyo po ang pagmamahal at pagkalinga at ang magbibigay sa amin ng kalakasan at buhay po Ama. Lord, salamat po Ama sa oras na ito at nandyan po ang mga tao behind behind po ng programang ito para makatulong, mga tao na nag-organisa ng gawain ito para ang mga taong manonood sa araw na ito ay may matutuhan po Ama sa inyo sa pamamagitan po ng aming guest speaker. Lord, sa oras pong ito, amin pong hinihingi ang inyong kapatawaran po Ama. Lord, sa oras pong ito, nawa ay maging maayos ang pagdaloy ng gawain ito at naway tulungan niyo po ang aming guest speaker na may paliwanag ang paksang kanyang tatalakayin sa hapong ito. Nawa po Ama, ang bawat isa ay may matutuhan po Ama. Lord, kayo pong sumama sa amin hanggang matapos ang aming programang ito. Ito po ang aming hinihiling at dinadalangin sa pangalan ni Jesus. Amen.
Marami pong salamat, Sir Tom Terry Merales. Marami pong salamat, Sir Tom Terry Merales, sa inyong gandang panalangin ngayong hapon na ito. Sunod naman po, para sa ating welcome remarks, tunghayan po natin si Ma'am Florelyn C. Escultura, ang ASTP, Assistant to the Principal ng Elementary. Ma'am Flor? Ma'am Flor?
Magandang hapon po sa ating lahat, lalong-lalo na sa ating PSDS in charge, Dr. Darwin S. Bonifacio, sa ating Division DRR Coordinator, Sir Enrique Soriano, sa ating resource speaker, Ms. Jimel Medina, at sa ating pinakamamahal na punong guro, Ma'am Leonila Q. Masangkay, sa aking kasamahan sa office, Sir Franklin Fabriag. Sa inyong lahat, magandang hapon po muli. Ang webinar po na ito ay tungkol sa pagpapatibay ng ating kalusugan, hindi lamang po sa ating pangangatawan, kundi pati na rin po sa ating isipan. Ika nga, kailangan malusog ang ating kaisipan para sa kaligtasan nating lahat sa pagharap sa hamon ng new normal na dala po ng pandemic. Sana po sa programang ito ng Hulo Integrated School ay matulungan po ang lahat at magkaroon po ng mga bagay na makatulong po kung paano harapin ang mga iba't ibang problema iba't ibang hamon sa ating buhay, lalo na po ngayon sa kinakaharap po nating pandemya. At lubos pong nagpapasalamat ang Hulo Integrated School dahil sa inyong suporta at pakikiisa. Sabi nga nila, lahat ng bagay ay mapagtatagumpayan natin kung ang lahat ay tulong-tulong. Muli, maraming salamat sa inyong lahat. Magandang hapon po.
Maraming salamat, Ma'am Flor Escultura. Tunay nga, mapagtatagumpayan natin ang kahit anong bagay basta tayo ay tulong-tulong. Kaya tulungan nyo din po kami na makarating ang webinar na ito sa mas marami pang tao by sharing sa pamamagitan ng pag-share, pag-host ng watch party sa inyong mga Facebook profile. Marami pong salamat. At ngayon naman, tayo po ay makinig sa isang mensahe mula sa Project Development Officer 2 ng DRRM, si Mr. Enrique Soriano. Magandang hapon po, sir.
Hello, good afternoon po sa inyong lahat. Kailangan masaya tayo sa webinar na to. And a blessed day to everyone. Thank you po for inviting me for the precious event and event sa Hulo Integrated School. Salamat po. Sa ating dynamic na principal, Ma'am Leonila Masangkay, sa assistant principal for elementary level natin, Ma'am Florilyn Escultura. Sa high school level naman natin, Mr. Franklin Fabriag. Good afternoon po. Sa Highway Hills Integrated School PSDS in charge, Dr. Darwin Bonifacio. Good afternoon po. At sa ating masipag na School Disaster Risk Reduction Management in charge, Dr. June Nacario. Good afternoon po sa inyong lahat. To the hardworking teachers who are part of this activity, and of course, to our dear parents who have a vital role in the teaching and learning process of our students in this new normal. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Hindi natin ipagkakaila sa 6 months, nakaraang 6 months, ay nag-iba bigla ang takbo ng buhay natin. Not only one, but all of us. Buhay ng ating pamumuhay ng bawat isa sa atin. Hindi natin pagkakaila ang big effect ng COVID-19 na ito na pandemic. Not only in our physical, but mostly sa mental ang effect nito. So, we need to take care. Kailangan bigyan natin ng atensyon ang bawat bahagi. Why? Kapag tayo ang bumigay, why? Kasi pag tayo ang bumigay, affected lahat, pati mga anak natin. We have never imagined that these shows will happen. Masasabi natin complete 360 degrees turn around of event. Ngunit sa kabila nito, kailangan pa rin nating magpatuloy sa buhay at labanan ng pagsubok. Hindi tayo pwedeng bumigay. Ito yung sinasabi ko sa gitna ng sistema. Tayo bilang mga civil servants ng DepEd officials, school heads, teachers, kasama ang ating mga mahal na magulang, we need to take care of our well-being, lalong-lalo na po ang ating mga anak at mga estudyante. We need to take care silang lahat sa kabila ng mga pagsubok sa panahong ito. Handa rin nating alalayan dapat at gabayan ang ating mga anak. Hindi lamang sa makabagong pamamaraan ng pag-aaral, kundi pati sa pag-aarap ng kanilang pang-araw-araw na pamumuhay. Ang Department of Education, School Divisions of Mandaluyong, sa pamumuno ng ating School Division Superintendent, Dr. Romero Cruz, at sa pakikipagtulungan ng ating masipag na punong guro, nagsasagawa ngayon ng Psychological First Aid Webinar upang matulungan ang ating mga kasamahan sa DepEd at mga magulang at higit sa lahat ang ating mga mag-aaral sa kanilang mga pinagdaraanan. Sa pamamagitan nito, ang webinar ito ay makapagbahagi tayo ng mga kaalaman, mga techniques upang kahit papaano ay maibsan ang stress ng mga parents sa mga bata in everyday living sa ating nararanasan at masiguro na tayo handa sa pagyakap ng new normal. Kailan natin sama-sama, kailan lakasan natin ang loob. We need to keep praying in everyday. Teachers and parents, our children need a strong support system in these trying times. Kaya sama-sama po tayong magtulungan at itaguyod ang maayos na mental health para sa ating lahat. Lalong-lalo na sa ating mag-aaral dahil ang maayos at malusog na kaisipan ay daan para sa magandang kinabukasan. Maraming salamat po at mabuhay tayong lahat. Thank you very much.
Maraming salamat po, Sir Mr. Enrique Soriano, in charge po ng DRRM. Tunay nga na kailangan nating magtulong-tulong para sa ikabubuti ng ating mga mag-aaral at mga estudyante sa mga panahong ito. Isang malaking hamon po ang ibinigay sa atin, hindi lang bilang mga magulang, kung hindi bilang mga tao. Ngayon, kailangan nating harapin ito ng sama-sama. At nandito po ang Hulo Integrated School para magbigay sa inyo ng tulong ngayong hapon sa pamamagitan po ng webinar na ito. Para ipakilala ang aming guest speaker ngayong araw, akin pong tinatawagan si Ms. Cassandra Jaya P. Ortega, Grade 9 Level Chairperson at Math Teacher. Ma'am Cassandra. Bago po tayo tumungo sa bago po pala muna tayo tumungo sa pagpapakilala ng ating guest speaker ngayong hapon, ating po munang pakinggan ang mensahe galing po sa ating PSDS in charge of school, Mr. Dr. Darwin S. Bonifacio. Dr. Bonifacio, isang maikling mensahe po. Okay po, mukhang nagkakaroon ng technical difficulties kay Dr. Darwin S. Bonifacio. So, tumungo na po muna tayo sa pagpapakilala ng ating guest speaker ngayong hapon na ito. Ma'am Cassandra Ortega.
Yes, ma'am. Can you hear me po? Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Let me introduce to you our speaker for this day. She finished her bachelor's degree in psychology in the year 2015 at Arellano University, Legarda, Manila. Upon graduating, she reviewed and passed the psychometrician licensure board exam in the same year. Then, she proceeded to her postgraduate studies in the year 2017 and currently on her last term taking up Master of Arts in Psychology at the same university. She also undergone through various trainings and seminars, one in which she participated in Psychological Association of the Philippines annual conventions, post-convention seminars on mindfulness and psychological screening assessment, and many others. Just recently, she conducted a webinar on psychological first aid for SDO Mandaluyong SDR
Hello po, good afternoon. Naririnig po ba ako?
Good afternoon po, ma'am. Loud and clear po.
Thank you very much. Ayan. So, isi-share ko lang po yung screen natin before we start. Ayan po. So, thank you so much po, ma'am, for that introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Jimelfi Medina, a registered psychometrician and currently administrative assistant at SDO Mandaluyong Personal Unit. So, first, I would just like to thank Dr. Juna Cario, the SDRRM coordinator of Hulo Integrated School, for giving me this opportunity to be able to share some knowledge about psychological first aid. And of course, the FBO Mandaluyong family, headed by Dr. Romela M. Cruz, our OICSBS, Dr. Aurelio G. Alfonso, our OICASBS, Mrs. Emma G. Arubio, the Chief Education Supervisor of SGOD, Dr. Aline G. Mendoza, Chief Education Supervisor of CIE, and of course, yung head po sa personnel, Ms. Lindsay Kubayati, for allowing me to be here po for the talk. And also, I would like to extend my gratitude to Mrs. Yanira Cumas Sampay, Principal of Mrs. Lauren A. Cultura, Assistant to the Principal of the Elementary Department, Mr. Franklin F. Abriag, Assistant to the Principal of the Secondary, and Dr. Darwin Bonifacio, the PSDS in charge of Hulo Integrated School. Thank you po for having me. And of course, our dear parents, teachers, and learners, good afternoon po sa lahat. So, welcome po sa ating short discussion on psychological first aid po. So, usually po, ang extensive or broad training sa psychological first aid ay naglalast po ng 5 to 6 hours po, depende po yan sa training. But here in our small talk sa ating webinar, i-discuss po natin kung ano ba ang kahalagahan kung tayo ay may kaalaman sa psychological first aid at paano po ito makakatulong sa panahon ng pandemya ngayon pong COVID-19. Ayan, so, yung training na to is based sa reference or training materials ng IFRC or the International Federation of Red Cross Reference Center for Psychosocial Support, which is based po sa look, listen, and rate approach ng psychological first aid na na-recommend po sa atin ng World Health Organization. Ayan, so, before we start, gusto ko lang sabihin kung ano yung aim ng ating discussion. So, first is to introduce psychological first aid. Okay, sa mga hindi po familiar sa PSA, matututunan po natin lahat yan as we go along our seminar. And second po is to apply the PSA skills to COVID-19 outbreak response. Okay po. So, ang PFA is short for psychological first aid. So, I will be using that term po as we move on. What do you know about psychological first aid or PFA? So, marami sa atin ang hindi po familiar ano ba talaga ang psychological first aid. So, yung iba sa atin, iba-iba po yung pagkakaintindi. So, to give you a simple explanation, psychological first aid is a set of skills and knowledge that can be used to help people who are in distress. Second, it is a way of helping people to feel calm and be able to cope in different situations. So, it is more like an approach in providing psychological support following a disaster, which now we have and we're currently experiencing po is the COVID-19 pandemic. So basically, it aims to reduce the stress of a person bago natin sila i-assess or i-refer for further professional services if they need it. Okay? Kumbaga, for example, di ba sa isang aksidente, first aid yung unang-unang ginagawa ng mga responders or medical responders natin to assess or to minimize the injury or future disability ng aksidente. While here, we have psychological first aid para matulungang kumalma yung certain person kung nakakaramdaman siya ng mga psychological distress, for example, anxiety or panic, at to the point na hindi na siya makapag-function normally. Okay, so PFA rarely stands alone and it is usually accompanied by other support. So later on, we will discuss kung ano-ano ba yung mga support na yun. Okay, so psychological first aid skills, as I said earlier sa definition ko, ang PFA is set of skills and knowledge. So of course, before you can give a proper PFA, tingnan muna natin kung ano ba yung skills na kailangan natin, di ba? Para maging effective tayo sa pagbibigay ng psychological first aid. So first is knowing how to assess a situation. So as a psychological first aid provider, kailangan we must learn how to look between the lines for signs of stress and anxiety. So alam dapat natin kung paano i-evaluate yung sitwasyon. Kung ano-ano ba yung mga risks, sino ba yung affected, ano-ano ba yung mga needs na dapat i-address, ano-ano ba yung mga feelings na nagtatranspire sa estudyante, sa learner, or sa tao. Okay? Next is familiarity with common patterns of reactions to crisis. So, another skill yan na kailangan natin i-possess as a PFA responder or giver. So, kailangan we must look for key points based dun sa sinasabi ng tao. But, syempre, ngayon, we are practicing social distancing. So, pag nagbibigay tayo ng PFA, reaction bakit hindi natin sila nakikita. So, paano nga ba tayo makakapagbigay ng tulong sa hindi natin nakikita? Okay, so, pwede tayong maging familiar dun sa mga common patterns ng reaction nila. So, for emotional reaction, pwede natin i-take note kung are they feeling sad, are they feeling angry or scared, yan. And then sa behavioral reaction naman, banggit nila that they lack motivation, they avoid doing activities that they normally do, and they become violent, nagiging violent sila towards themselves or sa ibang tao. So, kailangan maging alert tayo dun sa mga statements na yun. So, they might also mention na nakaka-experience sila ng physical reactions. Okay, so pwedeng ulo, headache, muscle pain, back pain, or a difficulty on sleeping, or nawawalan sila ng ganang kumain. So, kailangan maging familiar tayo doon. Next is how to approach someone in distress and how to calm them if needed. So, another skill, kailangan meron tayong ability na mag-validate ng students or ng feeling ng isang tao. And kailangan natin i-normalize yung reaction nila. So, as a PFA provider, we must know how to manage their emotions. So, pwede yung sabihin na normal lang yung reaction mo ngayon. Kasi at this time, everybody is experiencing those feelings. So, you can tell them that it is okay to be okay. So, you can also give them relaxation techniques, breathing techniques para mapakalma sila bago tayo makapagbigay ng psychological first aid. Kasi mahihirapan silang mag-process ng information. Baka hindi lang magsalita yan. So, kailangan pakalmahin muna natin sila if they are feeling anxious or they have panic inside. Okay, so last is to provide emotional support and practical help. Paano tayo makakapagbigay ng emotional and practical help? So, isa dyan is by active listening. Okay? Make it clear dun sa kausap nyo that you are there to support. Yung tone of voice nyo, kailangan very, very light lang. Hindi malakas, hindi rin sobrang hina. And then, pwede nyo rin i-encourage sila by prompting your head, diba, na nag-aagi kayo or nakikinig talaga kayo. So, kailangan nakafocus kayo dun sa nagsasalita, sa kausap nyo in a caring and empathic manner. This means that you show respect, okay? So, do not interrupt them pag nagsasalita sila or nag-open up sila dahil lang curious kayo, di ba? Or to the point na kayo na yung nag-share ng personal experiences nyo. Okay? So, it's okay to ask some clarifying question, di ba? Para ma-sure nyo lang that you understand kung ano yung sinasabi sa inyo. But, pwede rin maging silent lang kayo, like listening and nodding. Okay, it is also okay na kulang kayo or kausapin nyo lang siya, di ba? Kasi minsan yung presence nyo, yun is a form of support na. Okay? So, when it comes to practical help, siyempre, you must know kung ano ba yung kailangan ng tao na bibigyan nyo ng psychological first aid. Dapat aware, isa sa skills na ipopossess nyo, dapat aware kayo sa mga various institutions, departments, centers, within the school environment. So, pwede yung i-refer yung tao. Diba? So, kailangan meron kayong kahit listahan kung ano-ano ba yung mga institution na yun. Okay? So, next. Yan. So, sabi kanina, diba, ang psychological first aid is a psychosocial support. Diba? Based siya sa intervention principle ni Huxball, diba, and providing psychosocial support sa emergencies. So, first is psychosocial support promotes a sense of safety. Diba? So, in all responses, kahit hindi psychological responses, di ba, lagi natin tatandaan na safety first. Di ba? Importante naman yan. Bakit siya important ngayon sa psychological first aid? Kasi, una-una sa lahat, kailangan muna natin i-address yung basic needs ng tao bago natin sila bigyan ng psychological first aid. Kailangan ma-address muna ano ba yung mga basic needs yung kailangan niya, immediate needs niya. Like water, or shelter, or food, diba? Yan po yun. So, minsan kasi, hindi helpful na mag-talk about or kausapin niyo siya sa mga reactions niya kasi stress pa siya. So, there's so much going on in your mind na hindi niya mapaprocess yung mga information na sasabihin or pag-uusapan niyo. So, sayang lang. So, kailangan, diba, i-ensure muna natin na safe sila, diba, i-assure sila na attended yung basic needs. Baka gutom sila or uhaw sila, kaya hindi sila makakalma. So, safety first. Okay? Next is promotion of calming. Okay, so yan yung second principle is promoting calm. So, sa emergency or in a natural emergency or crisis situation, people tend to feel anxious. They feel anxiety sa sarili nila, di ba? So, in fact, ang anxiety, it is normal and healthy kasi minsan, this response is required for someone to pay attention. Diba? However, ito lang, high levels of anxiety, if continued, diba, hindi na siya maganda. Kasi, pinaprevent ka niya into functioning, diba, normally. So, hindi maganda yung meron tayong high levels of anxiety. So, addressing basic needs also is one important factor to make the person stay calm, diba? Next is promoting sense of self and collective efficacy. Okay, so this is the third principle, the importance of having sense of control, diba? Magbibigay siya ng positive outcome. So when exposed, diba, sa mga crisis or emergencies, immediate effect niyan sa tao is having lost control. Hindi mo na kontrolado yung paligid mo, diba? So, it is important to support the person to regain that sense of competency. Make them believe na in themselves, di ba? Paniwalain mo sila sa sarili nila that they can act. Gagawa mo yan, you can handle the situation, you can cope up. Okay? Next is promoting connectedness. So social connectedness provides opportunities of knowledge to essential emergency response information. Okay, so we promote connectedness by giving psychological first aid. Paano ba yun? So we support social activities like this one, this webinar. It includes emotional support, di ba, sa ibang tao, understanding, and also we help them connect with friends or loved ones, di ba? So, by giving psychosocial support by means of psychological first aid, we are promoting connectedness towards these people. Learners, diba, sa parents. Kasi what people need this time is someone whom they can talk to. Diba? Someone whom they can talk to with their experiences, someone who cares, someone who listens, diba? Someone to lean on, to cry with, ayan. So, kailangan talaga yung presence natin. And lastly, psychosocial support promotes hope. So, it is the fifth principle of psychosocial support, instilling hope. Okay, so people who remain positive is likely to have some favorable outcomes, diba? After going through tough experiences. So, pag sinabing positive, hindi lang naman siya sharing positive thoughts, okay, maging positive ka, positive, madaling sabihin. Pero how can we apply that positivity into action? Okay, so I think the best way to apply it, to do it, is do not choose to be ignorant and always encourage kindness. Kasi ang kindness, it helps us transcend or go beyond any type of circumstances. Kung, di ba, hindi naman natin alam yung pinagdadaanan ng tao, iba-iba. So, why not choose to be kind? Di ba? It will come a long way. You will instill hope dun sa tao by means of being kind. You are spreading positivity. Okay? So next, psychological first aid is, okay, so let's just clarify kung ano yung PFA. It is comforting someone in distress and helping them feel safe and well. It is assessing the needs and concerns of the person, protecting people from further harm, providing emotional support, helping to address immediate basic needs, katulad din ng sinabi ko kanina, such as food and water, or blanket, or temporary a place to stay. Pero ngayon, medyo social distancing muna. Nag-apply lang siya sa ibang disasters, diba? Like for earthquakes, diba? Or floods, okay? And lastly, helping people access information, services, and social support. So that's what PFA is all about. It's helping to address immediate basic needs. Diba? Okay, so now let us discuss what psychological first aid is not. Okay, so here are some misunderstandings about psychological first aid na very important to clear up. So first is psychological first aid is not something only professionals do. Okay, hindi lang professionals ang pwedeng mag-perform ng psychological first aid. Anyone can learn psychological first aid skills as long as you have the proper training from PAP, from Red Cross, from DepEd Philippines, or other accredited humanitarian agencies by the government na allowed mag-conduct ng training ng regarding psychological first aid. Okay? So, kailangan mag-training muna. Psychological first aid is not professional counseling or therapy. Okay? So, psychological first aid, it is just a one-time event. Hindi siya nag-transfer on a regular basis. That's why we call it first aid, di ba? Ang first aid isang beses lang, sa una lang siya. Okay? Psychological first aid is not encouraging a detailed discussion on the events that has caused the distress. It is not asking someone to analyze what has happened to them. It is not pressing someone for details on what happened. Hindi ka pipilitin, ano ba, sige magsalita ka. Hindi ganun. Okay? It is also not pressuring people to share feelings and reactions to the event. Okay? Okay, when does psychological first aid help? Okay? So, kailan tayo dapat mag-provide ng PFA? Okay. First is, the simple answer is when someone feels distress. Okay, when someone is in distress. It can be during in a stressful situation. For example, someone is going through a life-changing event such as divorce. It can be immediately after something that has happened. For example, someone, meron kang nabalitaang masamang ano, 'di ba, balita. Tapos hindi mo ma-process yung information mo, yung mga information tungkol dun sa bad news na yun. Or it can be from a minor car accident, 'di ba? Pero yung person is still in a state of shock. So it can be weeks, 'di ba? Weeks after an event has taken place. So kung ngayon siya na-aksidente, pwedeng next week or years or months, di ba? Bago siya, basta there's something na nag-reactivate no feeling of distress. That's the time that we give psychological first aid. So remember that not all people need or want psychological first aid. So the key factor that you must consider is when the person or someone feels distress. That's the time that you have to give them psychological first aid. So it can help in an emergency or non-emergency situations or pwede rin siyang personal or public crisis tulad nga nitong pandemic. Okay, so psychological first aid is helping people in distress based dun sa fundamental principle na do no harm. Okay? We always follow this in mental health and psychosocial support responses. So, do no harm, di ba? So, to ensure that hindi tayo nakakagawa ng any harm, so we pay attention to offering help that promotes safety, dignity, and its rights based. Okay? So, very important so sa mga response, lalo na sa mga people that is suspected na infected ng COVID-19 or who are still ill with the virus, they sometimes suffer distrust, stigma, discrimination. So, this means that we have to make efforts to avoid putting people at further risk. So, na resulta ng actions natin, di ba? We must do everything to ensure that the people we are helping is safe and protected from any physical or psychological harm. Also, concerning sa dignity, di ba, it means that we always treat people with respect and in accordance to their cultural and social norms. And lastly, fulfilling people's rights involves making sure that people can access healthcare relief, diba? And without any type of discrimination. So it means helping people to claim their rights and access available support. So pantay-pantay. We always act in the best interest of any person that we encounter. Tandaan po natin yan. Yun lang tayo sa ikabubuti ng lahat. Okay? So, let me just give you an update sa COVID-19 outbreak sa Philippines. So, it is from yesterday's data, di ba? Alam naman natin how the COVID-19 outbreak affected us here in the Philippines. So, short, refresher lang kung ano ba ang COVID-19, di ba? It is an infectious disease caused by the newly discovered coronavirus. So, this new virus and disease were unknown, di ba? Before the outbreak began sa Wuhan, China. Hindi pa siya kilala hanggang sa nag-spread na sa Wuhan, China last December 2019. So, when people can catch coronavirus from others who has the virus. Ba? So, it can spread from person to person through small droplets from nose or the mouth, diba? Which are, nag-spread siya when that person who is infected with the virus coughs or exhales. Diba? So, very important talaga that we wear our personal protective equipment such as the face mask and yung face shields nga natin. Okay, so as of yesterday, Sunday, September 13th, there are 261,116 cases na nag-test na positive sa infection ng COVID-19. 4,371 has died and 207,568 have recovered. So we can see yung numbers very alarming talaga, and we are on our 6th month of lockdown or quarantine. So we cannot see any flattening of the curve, diba? So kailangan talaga we make sure na we follow yung protocol, diba? Para hindi tayo mahawa or makahawa, diba? Always remember that as you have the virus, sabi nga. So, impact of COVID-19 in the Philippines. So, alam naman natin, di ba, aware tayo kung ano yung naging effect ng COVID-19 sa ating bansa. So, here are some of the impacts na cause ng COVID-19 sa ating bansa. So, we full lockdown last March, di ba? Nag-lockdown po talaga lahat ng cities and provinces dito sa Philippines, di ba? Physical distancing, we practice physical distancing and social isolation. Unemployment, yan, marami po sa atin, di ba? Sa kasamang paladang nawala ng trabaho. And we also experience economic crisis, disturbance in education, di ba? Na we need to hold the opening of classes on October 5 na to, di ba? So, the public transportation, nabawasan na rin po ang mga bumabiyahe. And totally yung mga jeep, mga tricycle, may times na pagbawalan talaga sila bumiyahe. So, wala po talaga masasakyan. Canceled trips locally and internationally. So, whether it's a business trip or leisure, di ba, yung mga bakasyon natin sa iba't ibang lugar, iba't ibang bansa or places sa Philippines is na-cancel po lahat. Okay, so limited access to shops, tensions within the healthcare systems to the point na there is an overwhelming number of cases na cause po ng overcapacity ng ospital to the extent na hindi na nila kayang ma-accommodate ng patients kasi limited na, di ba? Yung capacity, limited lang yung capacity ng hospital. So, also lack of supply ng PPEs and other protective materials, di ba? So, nagkaroon din ng stigma and discrimination against dun sa recovered patients, pati yung family nila, and then dun sa mga health workers na nagtitreat ng infectious patients, di ba? Hindi po sila nakaligtas sa diskriminasyon at stigma. Okay, so lastly na naging impact is the exhaustion of healthcare workers. So last month lang po, di ba, they called for help. They asked for 2-week ECQ para ma-slow down po yung COVID-19 transmission. So they can have time to replenish and to come up with a better plan on how to address the COVID-19 pandemic here in our country. Okay, so ilan lang po yan sa mga naging impact ng COVID-19, di ba, sa ating bansa. So, bakit natin kailangan malaman to, di ba? It is very important na naintindihan natin itong mga challenges na kinakaharap po natin lalo sa pandemya ngayon. This understanding helps us or enables us to have empathy and better be able to assist those mga in need na as identified natin kung ano yung possible solution dun sa problema kasi we ourselves understand kung ano yung pinagdadaanan ng lahat. Okay? So next, key groups. So sino ba yung mga at risk, di ba? Sa COVID-19 outbreaks. Ano-ano ba yung grupo na yun, di ba? Na particularly at risk sa negative impact of challenges ng COVID-19. Diba? Na mas kailangan ng PFA more than others. Okay? So, ito nga yun. Una sa lahat, those infected with COVID-19. Second, yung family and relatives nga ng infected. People in quarantine and in isolation. People who have recovered from COVID-19. Families and friends of disease. People who have lost income and employment due to COVID-19. Healthcare workers and social welfare responders providing care and treatment to the patients. People with physical and medical vulnerabilities, such as yung mga elderly, with yung people with chronic disease or illness, pregnant women, and yung mga at risk talaga. People with other vulnerabilities, such as may existing illness, mental illness, and this with people, as well as yung people living with person with disability. So, hindi ko naman sinasabi na these are just the people who are affected. Diba? Dahil lahat naman tayo, sa buong mundo is affected talaga ng COVID-19. But these are the group of people that most at risk talaga. So, very important na maging mindful po tayo sa particular groups na ito na at risk sila so we can give them a proper attention and understanding. Okay, so these are the different reactions sa COVID-19. So I think na-aware tayo lahat kung ano yung ina-expect natin sa isang tao, ano yung emotion niya, ina-expect natin doon sa isang tao na bibigyan natin ng psychological first aid. So, unang-una, we have fear. Next is we have anxiety, anger, confusion, and grief. Okay? So, lahat yan, pwede nating ma-encounter yung mga reactions na yan. Yan na yung kailangan natin i-expect when someone asks for help. Diba? Sa mga taong kailangan natin bigyan ng psychological first aid. Diba? So, next. We have the positive social impact. So, I've noticed na nag-increase yung empathy and sense of solidarity, di ba, among people sa community and even globally. So, ayan yung mga, ilan lang sa mga naging positive social impact ng COVID-19 pandemic. So, nakikita nyo naman sa mga balita, di ba, na merong tumulong sa ganito, tinulungan yung bigyan ng PPE yung mga laboy sa lansangan. Okay, so, di ba, parang by means of that, we display courage, di ba, or titulungan natin sila cope up, okay? And then people are more paying more attention, di ba? Nagiging mindful lahat sa kapaligiran nila. Okay, also na-notice ko din na some people actually are in more regular contact with their loved ones. So, kinakamusta, si ganito, kahit malayo, di ba? Which is dati, di ba, very minimal lang. Pag may mga event lang or birthdays, but ngayon, that we are isolated, di ba? So, talagang mas dumadalas po yung pakikipag-communicate natin sa family natin. Di ba? So, how to help? Ayan po. So now let's take a look on how we can help during this time of physical distancing. So we have moved to new ways in supporting one another and enabling social connectedness. So although there are still many helpers who are working face-to-face, such as yung mga healthcare workers, other other responders, others naman, tayo naman, we can provide help and support through these phone calls, diba? By just dialing. Diba, tinatawagan niyo yung may kailangan ng tulong through video calls, through short messages, diba, through text, or other messaging app, diba, WhatsApp, Telegram, or Viber. So, meron din po tayong magagamit na video conferencing app like yung Messenger, Google Meet, or yung Zoom app. Okay? So, there are a lot of ways to help or to reach out. Okay? So, despite dun sa mga methods na gagamitin nyo, kahit ano pa yan, kahit through text or through video call, we will be using kung ano yung gagamitin nating action principles to provide support or help. Itong 3 action principles na to, na look, listen, and link. So this model and approach to psychological first aid is developed by the World Health Organization, and it is used by many humanitarian agencies throughout the world. So we will take a look at each action principles and involve natin siya specifically on how we can apply it in response to COVID-19 pandemic. So tatlo lang yan, tatlong L, look, listen, and link. Okay. So first, let's talk about the first action principle. It involves the look. So it involves on how to assess a certain situation and to find out who really needs help, diba? Kung ano ba yung mga security risks, okay, may mga physical injuries, or whether the person you're speaking to has immediate basic or practical needs. Okay? So also, look involves observing and identifying emotional reactions or assessing if the person is having a normal or severe reaction that they may need referral or a further professional help. Okay? Yan. So ano-ano ba yung mga special considerations for look in the COVID-19 response? Okay, so first is the safety and security. Okay, so in this particular situation, helpers or psychological first aid givers must know and act according to the infection risk, okay, by practicing social distancing and using appropriate protective equipment. So, in other disasters, hindi naman, di ba, kailangan, kung yung dati pa, before COVID-19 pandemic, hindi natin kailangan ng mga PPEs na yan, di ba? But now, it is the number one thing that we must consider, especially when hindi may iwasan na kailangan talaga natin bigyan ng psychological first aid face-to-face, di ba? Especially yung mga healthcare workers and frontliners natin. Okay, so we must consider the safety and security of everyone. Next is understanding expected, normal, and more severe reaction to the crisis. Okay, so we have talked about this earlier, di ba nga, kung ano yung mga kinds of reactions, yung mga grief, fear, na kailangan natin i-expect na meron yung isang tao na nanghihingi ng psychological first aid. Okay, so because of a physical distancing, di ba, or we help people remotely, it is important na ma-recognize talaga natin yung mga symptoms na yun through remote contact. Diba? Katulad din ng sinabi ko kanina, paano? Through active listening, observation skills, kung video conferencing kayo, or yung communication skills natin is need natin i-enhance. Okay, next, that thing that we must consider is no updated information on COVID-19. So, it is very important sa helper na dapat up-to-date siya with the correct information about COVID-19. Ay lalo na sa social media is there are a lot of different articles, posts na available sa lahat. So, minsan maski hindi siya credible yung source, 'di ba? Pinaniniwalaan pa rin natin siya. So, minsan ito yung nagiging major source ng stress sa atin, 'di ba po? Na maraming information, bombarded tayo ng information na at times contradictory siya. So, hindi siya magkakalabo-labo yung mga information na yun. So, very important sa helper na to be able to correct someone if meron siyang paniniwala na mali tungkol sa COVID-19. Kasi, 'di ba, it can lead to a negative outcome kung hindi naman pala, kung yung paniniwala niya is mali. So we need to correct it as a psychological first aid responder. Okay, so kailangan aware tayo sa facts about COVID-19. So next is be able to recognize COVID-19 symptoms. Okay, so kailangan, syempre, alam din natin, di ba, kung ano yung sintomas ng COVID-19, di ba? So, usually, we need to pay attention kung may physical injury ba siya or basic needs. So kailangan alam natin yung signs and symptoms ng COVID-19 para alam natin kung paano makakapag-refer, di ba? Paano tayo makakapagbigay ng appropriate referrals for the person that may be infected para ma-address yung needs niya agad-agad. And lastly, we must consider, diba, we must recognize the groups who may be vulnerable or marginalized. So, kailangan aware tayo, ulitin ko, dun sa mga groups na talagang at risk, diba, which we talked about earlier. Okay, next. Ano ba yung mga different severe reactions na kailangan natin i-take note? So, pag ang person is unable to, severe na to ha, unable to sleep for a week, di ba? Or more, di ba? Or confused and disoriented. Unable to function normally or care for themselves or their family, they are not eating, yung hygiene nila, nakalimutan na nila, hindi na nakakaligo, hindi na nakakapagsuklay, di ba? Has lost control over their behavior and is unpredictable or distractive. So, they threaten to harm themselves or others. So, sinasaktan yung sarili or mga nananakit na sila to the point na nananakit na sila sa iba. So nag-start sila na excessive, out of ordinary use of drugs or alcohol. So, iba nag-resort na. Ipinagbabawal ng gamot and then sobrang pag-inom ng alak. Another severe reaction is they present chronic health condition, which needs specialized support, and they present symptoms of mental health disorder. So kailangan, syempre, yung may nagsasuffer sa mental health disorder, we take extra attention, di ba? During this outbreak, kasi high risk talaga sila. Diba? So, if the person presents any signs or symptoms, diba, these signs or symptoms, helper as a psychological first aid responder, kailangan we should help the person in distress to access additional help. So, hindi naman natin kaya to lahat i-process. As soon as possible, kailangan ma-refer natin sila sa psychologist or psychiatrist who can give them professional help or medical assistance. Okay, so next is listen. Ayan. So, now alam na natin, we have identified the common and severe reaction using the loop principle. Now, let's move on to the next. Okay, so next action principle refers to listen. So, it is the way on how the helper communicates with the person in distress the moment they are in contact and they start to interact, diba? So, bakit yung icon ng listen is unclear na may plus sign? Kasi, listen is more than just only what we do with our ears. Okay? What we do with our ears is just hearing. So, yun ang function ng ears natin, hearing, diba? But, listening, on the other hand, it involves the person's attitude and behavior, diba? As well as yung hearing, kasama na yun. So, listen refers to how we communicate with others, and in terms of this psychological first aid, it refers on how we can call supportive communication and active listening. So, listen, it also refers to calming the person in distress and helping them to find solutions to their immediate needs and problems. Okay, yan po yung next second principle. So, ano-ano ba yung special considerations natin for listen in COVID-19 response? Okay, so, interacting with others with physical distancing, sobrang nabago talaga yung ways ng pag-comfort natin, di ba? paano natin, sa normal days, paano natin i-comfort yung isang tao? Diba? We hold their hands, pinahug natin sila, we tap their backs, diba? So, ngayon, we cannot really do that easily. Kasi nga dahil sa physical distancing. Okay, so we really have to rely on verbal communication much more. So more on talking talaga remotely. So it means that we have to practice very, very clear verbal communication. Kasi minsan, syempre, di ba, baka ma-misinterpret nila or akala nila wala talagang taong to support, wala talagang someone to support them, di ba? Kasi hindi natin na bigay yung message natin ng maayos, hindi natin sila pwedeng yakapin, or i-hug, or di ba, hawakan yung kamay kasi nga hindi kaya, hindi pwede ngayon. So, calming is, kasi di ba, without physical distancing, hindi natin sila masusuportahan. So, very difficult na to show, di ba, that we are active listening. Kasi, di ba, for example, today, we di ba? So, for example na lang, uma-attend kayo ng meeting, online meeting, di ba? So, naka-off yung camera, like in Zooms, di ba? So, iba dyan kumakain, iba nasa ibang meeting, di ba? So, at the same time, may mga iba't ibang ginagawa. So, in supporting someone remotely, so it is a good practice na talagang attentive tayo dun sa tao, di ba? We must stop yung other task if possible para makapag-focus tayo sa conversation natin dun sa person in distress. Kaya nasa niya lang muna yung focus natin. Kasi syempre, maramdaman mo naman, if yung kumakausap sa'yo is not fully attentive sa'yo, di ba? Yung attention niya, hati, di ba? Kaya kahit remotely, alam natin yan. Maramdaman ng tao yan. So, you can still show someone that you are listening, di ba? By being calm and supportive. Kailangan yung tono. Katulad nga po ng sinabi ko, last time, yung tono bote, di ba? Tama lang, hindi masyadong malakas, hindi rin masyadong mahina. Okay? So, ayan po yung kailangan nating i-consider sa listen principle in response to COVID-19. Okay? So, paano ba natin siya sisimulan, di ba? So, by introducing yourself. So, if you want to provide psychological first aid, first we need to introduce ourselves appropriately. Di ba? Kailangan, for example, sabihin niyo yung name nyo, diba, explain nyo kung ano yung ibigay nyong help dun sa tao, or if kasama kayo sa isang agency or organization, sabihin nyo kung anong organization yon, diba, or agency yon. So, it sets the parameter, diba, o boundaries natin dun sa conversation na nakikita ng tao that he or she is safe and secure kasi alam niya kung anong i-expect niya. Diba, sa conversation is the first step in communication na very important as it establishes the trust dun sa buong pag-uusap nyo. Diba? It builds the rapport with the person you are assessing. Diba? So, very important na ma-introduce natin yung sarili natin ng maayos. Okay? Next is calming someone in distress. So, paano pag yung kausap nyo is experiencing anxiety, di ba, or panic? How can you calm them down bago ang lahat, di ba? So these are the different things na that can help you calm someone who is in distress. So ito yung mga methods na yun. So first is you keep the tone of your voice calm and soft. And next is try to stay calm yourself. So, kahit na if you do have feelings inside you, nagpapanik din kayo sa sarili nyo, di ba? So, it is very important na ipakita nyo sa kausap nyo that you are calm, di ba? Next is assure the person you are listening. So, assure the person you are listening. So, very important yun, especially when giving psychological first aid, remotely kasi hindi nila kayo nakikita, di ba? So, you can say things like, I hear you, di ba? I'm listening. Go on, tell me a bit more about yourself, about the situation. So, in that way, di ba, napapakita natin na nakikinig talaga tayo. Di ba? So, next is explore physical symptoms, and assess if there's need for medical help. So, baka yung kausap nyo nahihirapang huminga, di ba? Malakas yung heartbeat, or may lagnat, di ba? Kung if you have any doubts, di ba, dun sa kausap nyo, pwede nyo siyang tanungin and make sure that bago ang lahat, makahanap muna siya, di ba, ng medical help as soon as possible. Okay? And then, encourage calm and mindful breathing. So, madami po niyan, mindful techniques, di ba? Breathing exercises na pwede nyo pong gawin, i-perform bago po kayo mag-start giving psychological first aid. And lastly, encourage the person to ground with the earth or chair they are sitting on. Okay, so, di ba, kausap nyo siya, nakaupo siya sa upuan niya. Sometimes, di ba, they feel dizzy, di ba? They've lost the sensation of their body. So, you ask the person na they can sit comfortably sa upuan nila, di ba? And then, the feet feeling the ground. Okay, so nakalapat yung mga paa sa lapag, okay? In that way, di ba, they can gain a sense of control, di ba? Kasi nakalapat yung paa nila sa ground. So, ilan lang po yun sa mga calming techniques, di ba, na pwede nating itry when someone experiences panic or anxiety before you give psychological first aid. So, next, supportive communication and active listening. So, katulad nga ng sinabi ko kanina, yung active listening and supportive communication, isa sa mga skills na kailangan natin i-improve, di ba? In giving psychological first aid. Okay, so ano yung mga key phrases na kailangan nating i-take note, di ba? Na nagko-convey na interest and empathy. So, itong isa sa mga important skill din, yung psychological first aid, is communicating with the person in distress in a way that shows that you are really interested sa kanila and you have the empathy and understanding kung ano yung mga pinagdadaanan nila. So, ayan, pwede yung sabihin na, I understand your concern, or you have the right to be sad, you have the right to be angry, you have the right to be frustrated. I can hear what you're saying. Pwede yung sabihin na, I understand that you are worried, and then in this situation, your reaction is natural because we are really experiencing yung abnormal situation natin ngayon sa pandemic. So, maybe you can offer or discuss a possible solution kung ano yung mga i-offer nyo. Diba? Make sure to make it clear kung ano talaga yung pwede nyo i-offer at ano yung hindi. Diba? Okay, so I am concerned about you. I would like to suggest a place where someone can help you. Okay, so pwede yun na silang i-refer. Okay, so referral, ito na yon. Yung last natin is the link principle. Yan. So link, remember, diba, sabi ko kanina on the beginning of our discussion, ang PFA, it rarely stands alone. So, it is usually accompanied by other support. So, the action of link is usually have a practical outcome in terms of giving information and helping people address immediate basic needs so that they can cope better with the situation. So, di ba remember that psychological first aid is often a one-time intervention lang. And the helpmate, there only be, nandiyan lang siya for short time. Okay, so the real role of the helper really is to help the person help themselves to regain sense of control sa situation nga na yun. So, link actions, it includes helping a person access information, connect with loved ones and social support, and then provide help to tackle practical problems and get access or other help as needed. So the key part ng link skills is for the helper to know and understand their own limits, diba? In terms of the help that they can provide. So, and pag hindi na kaya within their limit na ng kaya mo, ng skill mo, you can link the person, you can refer the person for further professional help. Diba? Pag hindi na natin kaya, mamaya, later on, I will post kung saan tayo pwedeng humingi ng tulong. Kani-kanino nyo pwedeng i-link yung mga person in distress, diba? So, ano yung mga special considerations for link the COVID-19 response? So, first is address rumors and false information. So, syempre, sabi ko nga kanina, maraming nagkalat na information. So, kailangan i-refer natin sila dun sa talagang credible na makakapagbigay sa kanila ng professional assistance. Okay, so, link to reliable information sources nga. Kapag may ganitong disease outbreak, very common ang rumors. So, sharing accurate information is the best way to dispel rumors. Diba? And false information. So, always do fact checks. Yan sinasabi ko lagi. Diba? When sharing articles sa social media, consider natin yung audience natin, sino ba yung makakakita ng post ko na to, tama ba to? Instead of for it to do good, makakadagdag ba to sa harm, diba? Pag shinare ko to or pinost ko to. So, kailangan maging considerate po tayo doon. So, next is help people in isolation, knowing national COVID-19 response protocol, yun nga yung guidelines from the IATF or Interagency Task Force, kailangan familiar tayo dyan. Link someone who is ill to local authorities for testing and contact tracing and referral. Encourage remote social interaction. So, kailangan phone na lang muna, video calls na lang muna hanggat maaari. Encourage living healthy. So, daily exercise, eat healthy foods, good foods, drink a lot of water. Tapos, kailangan kumpleto po yung tulog. Kailangan i-encourage natin yan sa mga tao. And then, encourage asking help from friends and family during this difficult time. So, the help is always there. Diba? Kailangan lang talaga natin i-encourage na kailangan mo ng tulong. Diba? Matutulungan ka ng mga taong to. Huwag kang mag-alala. Okay? Huwag kang matakot na humingi ng tulong sa iba. Lalo na sa panahon natin ngayon. So, ito lang yung mga different rumors and false informations na talagang kumalat, di ba? First is warm and sunny countries are less at risk. Totoo ba yan? So, I think hindi, di ba? Hindi talaga yan totoo kasi walang pinipiling klima ang COVID-19, di ba? Kahit sa malalamig na bansa at dito sa tropical countries, di ba? Mataas yung rate ng COVID-19. Diba? Bananas are effective treatment for the virus. So, as of now, alam naman po natin na there is no treatment, diba? Or vaccine na na-develop for COVID-19. So, bananas, hindi po talaga siya effective in treating COVID-19. Potassium po, pampataas ng potassium, diba? Makakatulong din sa ating immune system. Diba? Pwedeng ganun. Next is drink alcohol or beers. Drinking alcohol or beers can kill the virus. Hindi po yan totoo. Diba? Wala pa po talagang gamot sa COVID. Next is, lastly, scams and fake marketing. So, marami dyan, nagbibenta ng ganito, ng ganyan, knowing na it can help you, diba, treat the virus. So, kailangan, syempre, we do our research bago tayo mag-refer ng iba't ibang binibenta, di ba? Bago natin sabihin, kasi kailangan tingnan muna natin kung ano ba yung maitutulong niyan sa tao bago natin siya i-refer. Kasi hindi sa maka-do siya ng good, lalo pang nakasama, di ba, dun sa tao. Okay, so let's be aware so that we can help provide people with clear and accurate facts. Always do fact check. Diba? So when sharing articles and make sure na yung resources ng articles na yun is really credible. Next, helping people in quarantine or isolation. So, paano ba natin matulungan yung mga taong naka-quarantine or naka-isolate, diba? Okay, so ano yung mga advice nyo dun sa taong nag-i-struggle, diba, dito sa gantong sitwasyon? So, First, stay socially close, even maintaining physical distancing. Paano yan? So, marami tayong ways to connect, di ba? Sa social media apps, di ba? Pwede manood kayo ng film sabay-sabay, di ba? Magbasa ng video sabay-sabay and you can discuss. Or ngayon, nauuso na yung coffee session online. So, pwede nyo pong gawin yan. Next is daily routine. So, you can plan a daily routine, di ba? For some people, very effective siya, di ba? Na ipaplano natin kung ano yung mangyayari ngayon at saka sa following week natin, di ba? It helps people stay on track. And next, set goals and keep active. So, yung setting goals po, di ba, and achieving them, it enhances the sense of control and competency dun sa tao, di ba? Pwede, parang there's something to look forward to. Di ba? It gives the sense of hope, di ba? And satisfaction na rin para kung matitik off natin yung mga goals na yon, di ba? Kung matatapos natin siya dun sa inalat natin na time. Diba? If living with others, plan time alone and spend time together. Okay? So, marami na po tayong pwedeng gawin, diba? With our families, sa bahay. We can read books. Diba? May mga pwedeng maglaro ng board games. We listen to the radio, to the music, diba? Podcast. Pwedeng sa mga learners natin dyan, di ba? Alagaan natin yung mga nakababata natin kapatid, di ba? So, marami na po tayong pwedeng activities na gawin ng sama-sama sa bahay, like baking, maraming mga naging chef, di ba? Cooking, may mga gumagawa ng TikTok videos, di ba? So, it lessens the feeling of isolation, di ba? So, don't forget humor, even though things are tough, try to look for humor if appropriate. So, di ba? Even smiling, di ba? Kailangan lagi nakangiti in times of di ba? Distress, di ba? It can really help provide relief, di ba? Sa anxiety and frustration. Hindi lang po tayo, libre lang po ang ngumiti. Okay? So, maintain hope. So, believe in something meaningful, whether sa family, okay, sa country, or sa, di ba, sa government, na mga nagde-develop ng vaccine, always maintain hope that malalagpasan po natin itong pandemic na ito. Okay, use of stress management techniques, okay, very accessible na online yung mga different techniques, breathing techniques, diba, may mindfulness techniques, diba, stress management techniques na pwede natin i-practice, diba, para matulungan yung mga tao, matulungan yung sarili natin or yung iba, diba, in this quarantine. Next, accept feelings. Lastly, ayan. So, being in a stressful situation, it can cause a lot of emotional reactions like anger, frustration, anxiety, regrets, diba? Self-blame. So, we must acknowledge that these feelings, mararamdaman natin ngayon is normal reactions lang. Normal reactions, especially now, we are in an abnormal situation, di ba? Hindi naman talaga normal itong pandemic na ito. So, don't be too hard to yourself. And this too shall pass. Itong lahat na ito. So, preparing to help. Ayan. So, alam na natin, di ba, kung ano yung mga kailangan. Yung tatlong principles, look, listen, and link. So, now, paano na tayo tutulong? Paano tayo magpe-prepare para tumulong dun sa mga tao in distress, di ba? As a helper, di ba? Yan. So, first, safety and security. Di ba? Kailangan, and this time of pandemic, we choose a method of interaction na safe para sa'yo at para dun sa bibigyan mo ng psychological first aid. Diba? We can do phone calls, video conferencing, like different apps sa Google Meet, Messenger, Viber, diba? Skype, okay? So, pwede natin gamitin lahat yan to reduce yung social interaction, diba? Para safe kayo parehas. And then, prepare your equipment. So, if you're going face-to-face, hindi maiiwasan na kailangan talaga face-to-face. Walang internet connection, di ba? Mahina, hindi kaya sa phone. At kailangan talaga face-to-face. And make sure that you plan accurately, di ba? Make sure meron kang PPE, di ba? May mask, face mask kayo, face shield kayo, para to reduce nga yung transmission ng COVID-19, di ba? Next is know the updated local COVID-19 response protocol before going into the situation where you are offering help. So, kailangan, syempre, kung pupunta ka dun sa lugar na yun, kailangan alam mo kung ano yung mga guidelines ng barangay nila. Diba, bawal pala, walang quarantine pass, diba? So, kailangan aware din tayo dun sa mga pupuntahan nating lugar, diba? And then, have updated referral information to share. So, later on, i-share ko nga kung ano-ano yung mga information, referral site na yon na pwede natin ipag-referan doon sa mga tao kailangan talaga ng further help. And then, be aware sa groups with specific needs, diba? Which is, example, yung children nga, yung mga older adults, people living with pre-existing health conditions, yung mga vulnerable group, kailangan we really look out to them. Kailangan prioritize natin sila. We must protect them in times of this pandemic because they are more at risk. Lastly, have psychoeducation materials ready to share. Okay? So, kailangan prepare din kayo in case na kailangan talagang tulungan sila, yung mga healthy coping strategies, better sleeping, yung mga stress management techniques. Kailangan very familiar din kayo dyan kung kayo ay talagang tutulong or magbibigay ng psychological first aid. Okay, so ito po, very important sa lahat ng psychological first aid helpers in any context to have any information about your local referral system na ready sila at all times while giving psychological first aid. So this template I got from the 2020 DepEd online or remote PSA modules supplemental to the CIS manual in collaboration with the Psychological Association of the Philippines. Okay, so kailangan meron kayo niyan sa mga bahay niyo na ready, di ba? Kahit hindi po yung mga magbibigay ng psychological first aid, kayo po, parents, learners, teachers, kailangan meron po kayo niyang list na yan na ready. Pwede niyo pong picturean yan or i-screenshot and then fill out po kayo sa inyong sa mga bahay niyo na mga correct information para mabilis po yung access in case of emergency. So, Barangay Health Office, Barangay Disaster Team, SWD Office, nearest hospital, psychologist or social worker, COVID screening center, and then yung school nyo po. Diba? Para hindi na po tayo maghahanap kung kailan nandiyan yung emergency. Nagtataranta tayo, asan ba yung number na ganyan. So, kailangan ready po yan lahat. Nakakatulong po talaga yan. Okay? So, examples of self-care. Okay, so ito na po yung we're nearing na, patapos na po yung talk natin. So, paano natin mapapangalagaan yung sarili natin kung tayo ay nagbibigay ng psychological first aid? So, ito, pwede sa'yo, pwedeng gumana sa hindi gumana sa'yo. So, yan lang iba sa mga examples na aking ibibigay. Okay, so, focus on simple and routine tasks. Okay, peer support. Talk to your friends or colleagues about how you are feeling. So, let your peers or supervisors, di ba, know kung ano talaga yung nararamdaman mo and be patient with yourself. So, because talking to someone about your thoughts and feelings can really help you absorb and accept any unpleasant experiences you have had. So, very important to share, di ba? Ilabas natin lahat yan. Diba? Hindi pwedeng naiipon yan sa atin, yung mga feelings of distress na yan. Try to socialize in new ways. Okay? Katulad yan, sinabi ko, keep in touch with your loved ones, with your friends, di ba? Exercise, di ba? Total, nasa bahay naman na tayo, so we can exercise, Zumba, di ba? Maraming yan sa YouTube. Pwede natin allot a short time in your day na makapag-exercise. Rest and sleep well. Make sure that you get enough sleep. Eat and drink healthy. Avoid alcohol and the use of substances na pinagbabawal. Do things that you enjoy. And especially ask your ask help when you need it. So, talk about your feelings, diba? Your experiences, diba? With your colleagues or someone that you trust. Huwag kayong mahihiya or matatakot to get help. 'Di ba? If you're feeling stressed or sad, hindi niyo na kaya yung mga responsibilities, 'di ba? Huwag kayong matatakot humingi ng tulong. Okay, marami sa atin ang nakaka-experience ng same feeling din, 'di ba? Kasi nga isa tayo dito sa pandemic nito. Lahat tayo na experience natin 'to. So, pakinggan natin kung ano yung pwedeng sabihin ng iba, 'di ba? Kung ano yung coping nila, baka makatulong din sa atin 'yon. 'Di ba? Okay? So, ayan po. Get more information and referrals. Andito po, naka-flash po sa screen. 'Di ba? Kung saan tayo pwedeng humingi ng tulong or kanino natin pwedeng i-refer yung tao if they need more professional help. Okay? So, ayan po yung mga sites. National Center for Mental Health Crisis Hotline. Nakikita niyo po. Okay, so may ano sila dyan, number, Philippine Mental Health Association online support, UP Diliman Psychological Service or UPD PsychServe, Ateneo Bulatao Center for Psychological Services. Andyan po yung mga contact number and emails nila. Yan po, very accessible na sa lahat. Diba? Gagawin lang natin is tumawag, mag-refer dun sa mga taong kinakailangan talaga ng tulong. Yan. Additional po, Psychosocial Inc., Circle of Community Services Incorporated, Heart and Mind Counseling and Healing Center, and Argao Center for Psychological Services. Yan. Pwede nyo pong picturean or i-screenshot po yan. Okay, and then yung mga websites po na pwede nyo puntahan for more information about COVID-19 and the mental health. Ayan, marami po yan. mentalhealthph.org, ncmh.gov.ph, www.pscenter.org, intouch.org, facebook.com/hopelineph, themindbasin.com, facebook.com/youth for mental health. Okay, para sa mga learners po natin dyan. facebook.com/PH Red Cross, sa DOH site po, pap.ph, sa World Health Organization, and Mental Health and Psychosocial Support.net, mhps.net. So, ayan po, that ends my presentation and my discussion. Okay, thank you so much for listening. Okay, and I am grateful and honored to be able to support you po in these trying times. I hope you learned something. Always remember to keep safe, wash your hands, and keep physical distance. Help those around you so they can cope better. And remember to always look after yourself and for your well-being. Thank you very much po.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Janelle Medina, ang Administrative Assistant 3 sa ating personal unit, DepEd Mandaluyong. Siya po ay isang registered psychometrician. Maraming salamat po sa mga impormasyon ninyong ibinahagi sa amin ngayong hapon na ito. Para naman po magbigay ng mensahe sa pagtatapos ng programang ito, tawagin po natin si Dr. June C. Nacario, ang Sdrrm Coordinator ng Hulo Integrated School. Sir, para sa inyong mensahe.
Okay, magandang thank you po, Ma'am Elena. And bago po ang lahat, gusto kong batiin ang ating mga namumuno, ang ating principal, Mrs. Leonila Masangkay, and sa ating PSDS na in charge sa Hulo Integrated School, Dr. Darwin S. Bonifacio, at ang ating dalawang masipag na assistant to the principal, Mrs. Floreline Cultura and Mr. Franklin Pabriag, at lalo na sa ating mga guest ngayon, si Miss Jemel Medina, ang ating speaker, at ang ating DRR PDO2, si Sir Ricky. So maraming salamat po sa inyo. at maging sa mga magulang at mga teachers, mga learners na nanood ng ating webinar. So, sana po ay patuloy nating suportahan ang ating school at maging sana po marami tayong natutunan sa mga lecture na binigay sa atin ng ating guest speaker. Naalala nyo pa ba yung 3 L's? Yan. Look, listen, and link. So, ito po ay pasimula pa lang ng ating pagbibigay ng mga webinar dito sa DRR. So, siya nga pala, thank you sa ating mga TWG at saka sa DRR team. So, ito po yung kailangan malusog ang ating kaisipan, hindi lang yung ating katawan. Kasi may kasabihan, kung ano daw yung ating naiisip, di ba sabi ni Napoleon Hill, whatever your mind can conceive and believe, your body can achieve. So minsan, sa pag-iisip lang natin, iniisip natin may lagnat tayo o may COVID tayo, yun pala nasa isip lang natin. So minsan sa mental lang yan, nasa isip lang natin. So sana maging healthy tayo lahat. So abangan po natin yung mga susunod pa nating webinar, yung mga bata na nanonood dyan, yung mga natutunan natin dati nung nagpi-face-to-face pa tayo, katulad ng mga earthquake drill, yan kung paano tayo nagdi-drill, huwag niyo pong kakalimutan yan. So magkakaroon po tayo ng mga webinar pa about earthquake para ma-review kayo, pati yung mga parents po, lalo na nandiyan kayo sa inyong tahanan. So dapat din po alam natin kung paano tayo magre-respond sa mga ganong disasters. So fire, lalo ngayon sa ating dito sa atin sa Mandaluyong, medyo madalas ang fire. Alam natin po dapat ang ating gagawin. At saka kailangan alam din natin, katulad nung sabi ni ma'am, yung link. So paano natin ililink? Sino ba yung ating mga tatawagan? So halimbawa, sa ating mga parents at saka learners dyan, alam po ba natin ang emergency number? So dapat meron po tayong listahan dyan. Yung number ng police, ng barangay, ng bumbero, ng ospital. So maglagay na po tayo dyan sa ating mga bahay. Pero ang emergency number, 117 lang po. Pwede nating i-dial yan pag emergency at naka-centralized naman po yan. So sa ngayong hapon, maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat at sana po ay natuto tayo sa diniscuss ng ating speaker. So ibabalik ko na po sa ating magandang MC.
Naku po, sir. Maraming salamat po. Para naman po sa ating closing remarks, i-welcome po natin si Mr. Franklin F. Fabriag, ang ASTP Assistant Principal ng Secondary or Junior High School. Sir Frank? Sir Frank? Mukhang ganito po talaga pag live. Ayan. Ayan, Sir Frank. Sige po. Sige po, Sir Frank. Nakamute. Ayan. Okay na po.
Meron na? May sounds ako?
Opo. Naririnig na po kayo. Sige
Okay.
po.
Salamat po. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Nanonood po sa atin ngayon si Mama Sangkay. Ma'am, good afternoon po. Sa ating DS in charge sa school, si Dr. Darwin Bonifacio. Siyempre kasama natin ngayon nandito sa school, ang ating masipag na ASTP sa elementary, Ma'am Florin Escultura. At siyempre, maraming salamat din po sa ating mga panauhing pandangal ngayong hapon kay Sir Enrique Soriano ng DRR at siyempre kay Miss Jumel T. Medina ng ating personal unit sa DepEd Mandaluyong. Ma'am and sir, maraming salamat po sa inyong pakikisa sa hapong ito. At syempre, hindi magiging matagumpay ang hapong ito kung wala ang ating magiting na DRR coordinator, si Dr. Jun Acario at si Sir Tom Merales. Yan. At sa mga punong abala, ito po ay sa pakikipag-ugnayan sa ating Brigada Eskwela Family. Sa lahat ng mga guro po, mga magulang, mag-aaral, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. Marami pong salamat sa inyong presensya at salamat po sa pagtugon ninyo sa tawag ng bayanihan. Nawa po itong webinar na ito ay lubos na nakatulong upang higit kayong maging handa at maging malay sa mga kaalaman para mapagtagumpayan natin ang pandemyang ito. And kaya po ng Hulo Integrated School Family, kami po ay lubos. Muli po nagpapasalamat yung lahat sa inyong mga suporta upang mapagpatuloy namin ang serbisyo publiko para sa kabataan ng Hulo at ng buong Mandaluyong. Muli po, maraming salamat and God bless po sa inyong lahat. Stay safe everyone. Mag-ingat po kayo. Basta hisyan, angat yan. Stay safe.
Maraming salamat po, Sir Frank. So, ayan, maraming salamat po sa inyong napakagandang mensahe para po sa ating mga manonood. Tunay ngang kailangan natin ng malusog na isipan at pangangatawan para sa ligtas nating pakikibaka sa bagong hamon na ito na hatid ng pandemyang COVID-19. Maraming salamat po sa lahat po ng nanood ng aming YouTube Live na ito din po ay mai-share sa aming Facebook page. Maraming salamat po sa aming punong guro, Ma'am Leonila Q. Masangkay. Maraming salamat po sa inyong suporta. Ganon din po kay Sir Frank Fabreag at kay Ma'am Flor Escultura. Maraming salamat po sa inyo sa inyong suporta sa lahat ng gawain ng paaralan. Salamat din po Dr. Jun Nacario sa inyong initiative para sa webinar na ito. Maraming salamat po sa aming Project Development Officer ng DRRM, si Mr. Enrique Soriano, at syempre po sa aming speaker ngayong hapon na to, Ms. Janelle T. Medina. Maraming salamat po. Muli, ako po si Maria Elena Nui Allen A. Duarte. Nagpapasalamat sa inyong panonood ng aming isa na naman pong webinar na hatid ng Hulo Integrated School. Yun po. Maraming salamat. Bye!